Welcome back.
We are here to review Salt Lake City, Utah. We'll start out with arts and culture. We didn't find a ton of improv comedy, which was sad. We also didn't find a ton of steel drums or Caribbean influence, which was also sad. On the sports front, it was okay. They do have a MLS team, which was cool. We got to go see...
Probably what I care most about in terms of professional sports.
Yeah, agreed. They also have the Utah Jazz, the basketball team, but neither of us are really that into basketball. You know, the culture is affected by the fact that the city is 50% Mormon, so it just has an influence. For instance, like most of the museums in Salt Lake City are about the Mormon and LDS church.
And pioneers that got here pretty early on.
Yeah, like the big migration to Salt Lake City in the 1800s. Park City is only 30 minutes away. That has like the Sundance Film Festival, which actually some of the theaters that do Sundance films are in Salt Lake City as well. So that's kind of a cool yearly event. Also, the Olympics was hosted in Salt Lake City not that long ago. So there are some cool kind of museums and activities you can do related to the Winter Olympics that were there. So all that to say, we're going to give Salt Lake City for arts and culture a 3.
Jumping to restaurants, the food scene here is pretty solid. We did find a lot of different types. So we had some good ramen, we had some good Greek and Mediterranean. Yeah. We had a great couple Mexican meals. I really want to get into the pie scene here. There's a couple of very nice bakeries, but like the level of which you need to order them like 2 or 3 days in advance for whatever reason. But anyways, I'm interested. But yeah, it's not like a fancy food kind of place, but definitely meets our needs in that regard. So we were going to give the restaurant scene a 4.
On the neighborhood side of the house, it is definitely more affordable than some of the other places we've looked at. It's nice. Some of the neighborhoods are, up on the foothills of mountains. You either get a view of the valley, or if they're in the valley, you get a view of the mountains that are kind of everywhere. There are definitely a few nice parks in the city, a few little walkable neighborhood areas. Not a lot, so there weren't a lot of neighborhoods that we felt like fit our needs, but there were a few, and those few we felt like were in our price range. Anyway, we're going to give neighborhoods a 5.
Jumping to outdoor activities. So, hands down, this area has some amazing outdoor stuff with all the Wasatch Mountains around, all the ski resorts, multiple different canyons and places to go see. It does have the Great Salt Lake, which is an interesting place, to say the least. And it's got its own bison herd on Antelope Island. So kind of some cool stuff. Lakes, other than the Great Salt Lake, which is fun to go see, but not a place that you'd, go set up on the beach and hang out and have a lake day at, so to speak. Not great, beach and lake activities as options here, but amazing mountains, mountain biking, hiking, rock climbing if you're into that, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're gonna give outdoor activities a
4.5. Day and weekend trips. So Salt Lake City is pretty isolated from other big cities. The other biggest city nearby is Boise, which is 5 hours away, if you even consider Boise a major city. But just like the outdoor activities that are really close, there's some that are further away too. Tons of national parks in southern Utah or eastern Utah, but the closest one is still 3.5 hours away. So I think people here just get used to driving longer, whereas on the East Coast, you wouldn't drive more than 4 hours for a weekend trip. Here, that's almost the minimum. For day and weekend trips, we're giving it a 3.5.
So traversability is pretty important in terms of getting around the city. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very much a car-based city. The whole city is gridded out, which actually makes it really easy to know where you are in relation to wherever something else is, because everything's basically 3,300 and 700 or something like that. So very easy to get around, which is cool. There are bike lanes in a variety of places, not everywhere, so kind of decent but not great. And then there is a light rail or transit system that is closer to the city center than where we were staying in our Airbnb. So probably more useful for those in that hub. So for traversability, we're going to give it a 3.5.
And finally, weather. So Salt Lake City is, a desert. It's pretty high elevation. So the winters, we have been told, are certainly cold and snowy, but
I'm gonna have to get a shovel.
they're also quite sunny, apparently. So people say they're not as bad as you would think. Summers, of course, get hot. While we were there in June, there was quite a number of 100-degree plus days. But it is a dry heat, so it gets cool in the evenings and the mornings.
It's super nice to take a shower and have the air dry you off in 2 to 3 minutes, as opposed to a much more humid location.
Yeah.
So that actually is super nice.
Yeah, and we've heard people really love the fall. Apparently, the aspens turn really beautiful colors, and it's just a great season to be there. One thing that sort of is related to the weather is the fact that the city does have water issues. Out of all the environmental issues in Utah, it seems like running out of water and an increasing population is definitely one they're having to grapple with, or should be grappling with.
Yeah, and not something that we saw an immediate impact to. There were not water shortages. We still saw people watering their lawns, all the time. But something that needs to be, considered for the future.
Yeah. All that to say, we're going to give weather a 3.5.
Jumping to fun facts about Salt Lake City. So we actually went downtown a couple different times to check out, the Mormon temples, and to go check out a place called City Creek, which is basically a indoor/outdoor mall. And actually, there's a creek that I don't think is natural. I think they built it.
I think it's semi-natural.
Maybe, yeah. But basically, there's literally a creek that just runs through the center of this mall. So, you've got shops here. You're upstairs, and then down below you see people sitting and wading through the water, kids playing in it. So, pretty cool spot.
Yeah. We also, as mentioned, went into the center of Salt Lake City, which is, where the hub of the LDS church is, and they have, their really big main temple right there that has on top of it a statue of the angel Moroni. And in March 2020, there was an earthquake in Salt Lake City, and the trumpet that the angel Moroni was holding fell out of his hand. So now they're doing a ton of construction. They're kind of digging under the temple to earthquake-proof it. But it was an interesting event.
On another topic, Romeo learned to use a doggy door for the first time. So it took a good bit of coaxing and training, but he figured it out. So now he's able to do that. So that's a plus, I guess.
Yeah. And the last fascinating thing about Utah is that, of course, it has really strict liquor laws, as you might have heard. So in restaurants and in grocery stores, beers have to be below 5%. I think maybe 4.8 or something. And then all the liquor stores are state-run, and they look like these really depressing warehouses, and
20 feet by 20 feet, just shelves and a couple checkout
no
counters.
Windows.
Yeah, but they sell all the alcohol individually. They're all individually priced. So it was actually weird. We noticed because all the different 4-packs and 6-packs would be open, the cardboard boxes were open, and 1 or 2 of them taken out, and all the prices were very low because they're priced individually.
It's $2.50 because you're buying a can at a time. You can buy 6 if you want, or you can buy one of 6 different kinds.
Yeah, so pretty cool actually if you want to try some different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching. That's Salt Lake City.
Bye.